Hey everyone, welcome back! On my workbench today I've got a 007 Goldeneye N64 game cartridge that doesn't currently work, and it has significant board damage. So, let's dig into it and see what's wrong, and then we'll repair it and give it a new life. I got this game for free from a guy named Brian on a retro game modding page on Facebook, since he didn't want to just throw it away. Thanks, Brian. Goldeneye is such a beloved N64 title, and I hate to see any game get tossed in the garbage, so I thought I'd try to revive it. Let's take a look at it. This cart has some tape on it, and it's missing the original shell screws. Brian said he had to bore them out since they were stripped, so that's why there's two big holes on the back. It's also missing the screws on the metal shielding. I'm gonna put some gloves on quick so we can take a closer look. As you can see, the PCB in this game cart is cracked all the way across the top of the slot connector pads. That would explain why the game doesn't work, since there's likely no continuity between the game and the N64. Now, I had ideas about trying to repair the current board by just bridging all of these contacts and traces, but structurally speaking, that's not a good approach, and the game wouldn't work for very long in that state. So, that leaves me no choice but to transplant this game's ROM to another N64 game board entirely. For this process, I'll be using several tools. A temperature-controlled soldering iron, a desoldering gun, I'm using the Hakko FR301, a spool of desolder braid, some 6040 tin lead rosin core solder, some rosin paste flux, a screwdriver with a 3.8mm game bit and a Phillips bit, a pair of tweezers, some 70 to 90% or higher isopropyl alcohol, a handful of cotton swabs, and a toothbrush, which we'll use with the cotton swabs for cleanup. Looking at the cartridge PCB, you'll notice this model number in the upper left corner of it. So I went on the hunt online to see if there are more games that use this model, and that led me to the website of Jack Black Region 4. The owner of this site has compiled an extensive list of N64 game cartridge scans, sorted by model. So I went to the page for my game's board model, NUS01A02, and I found that there's all sorts of sports games like NHL, FIFA Soccer, and some football games that use it. A quick side note, he's got Goldeneye sorted into the NUS01A01 board model category, and he's got the pictures of one with that model number. However, my Goldeneye game uses the NUS01A02 board. It's a strange anomaly, but I imagine that there's some kind of design revision that Nintendo did midway through assembling some of these games in the factory. As far as I can tell, both PCB models look identical. Anyways, I consider games like Madden to be the equivalent to modern shovelware, since nobody ever plays them anymore and they just sit in bargain bins at game stores. So I ordered a copy of Madden 99 off of eBay for a few dollars, with plans to sacrifice it to fix one of the greatest games ever made. Before I tear into this game, let's make sure quick that it actually works. Since our game test worked out, I take apart the Madden cartridge using my screwdriver. And then I strip away all of the shielding to confirm that the model number on the board matches my Goldeneye cart. They're a perfect match. Now let's take a walk through what we're actually looking at on these boards. This chip is the MaskROM, and it contains the actual game information. All N64 game carts, along with most other Nintendo game carts, have one of these. Next is the CIC lockout chip. This talks with the console to make sure you have a genuine game cartridge and not a copy. Again, all N64 game carts have one of these. This is the EEPROM chip, which stores your game save data. The Goldeneye cartridge has one, but the Madden cart does not. And lastly, there's several resistors and a capacitor on each board. My plan is to remove all of the guts from the Madden game so that it's reduced to just a bare board. Then I'll do the same thing to the Goldeneye cart, but transplant all of its components to the Madden board. It may seem like a bit of overkill, but I'm going to bring over the resistors and capacitor to the new board as well. I could probably use the ones already on the Madden board because I know they work since the game runs fine, but I'd rather be thorough and just transplant everything. The Madden cart is up first. I remove all solder joints from the back of the board, which will allow all of the pieces to be removed. This can be done exclusively with a desoldering gun. Next, I do the same thing to the Goldeneye cart. There's a bit more to remove from this one, and I need to remember the orientation of these components when desoldering so I don't install them backwards onto the donor board. After all of the pieces are removed, I prep the Madden board by adding flux to the pads on the backside of it. Flux removes surface oxidation so that the solder will properly wet to metal pads and components. Then I put the MaskROM chip in place and solder one leg of it first to hold it there, and then I get to work on the rest of the legs. The CIC lockout chip is next. Followed soon after by the tiny EEPROM chip. With the chips all done, next I move on to installing the resistors and capacitor. The resistors don't see polarity on a circuit, so they can be installed either direction. The capacitor, on the other hand, needs to be installed in the correct orientation. The negative leg is typically indicated on the cylinder label. After that, scrub everything clean with alcohol and cotton swabs. Using a toothbrush is a big help for this process, if you have one. Here's the completed board after I've cleaned it. Now we just need to clean and prep the cartridge shell for getting the board installed. I removed the tape from the sides of the shell, and then clean the internals with alcohol and cotton swabs. Now I put the plastic guard back on the game board, and then I place the board back into the cart shell and secure the metal shielding over it with the screws from the Madden cart. All that's left is to close it up with the back half of the cart shell. Since the original Goldeneye one is destroyed, I decided to use the one from the Madden cart since it has the exact same label on it, and it's in much better shape overall. I also used the outside cart screws from the Madden cart. The game is now fully assembled, and structurally and cosmetically it seems to be pretty solid. This game should no longer have a problem with being put into an N64. So with that, let's test it out. Aside from the ISO on my camera being turned up too high, the game works on the first try, and there seem to be no discernible issues whatsoever. Pretty cool. The soldering and repair techniques that I showed in this video can be used for a myriad of applications, so don't be afraid to give this a try with other electronics projects. If you liked this video, please consider leaving a thumbs up, and also consider subscribing to me for more content like this. When you do, ring the bell to receive notifications when I post new stuff. Thanks for watching, everyone. Stay awesome, and I'll see you in my next video.